Hello, and welcome to our final installment of our initial season of Where the Good Songs Go. Once again, I'm Ian Silverman, the artistic director of the series. In this video, we will explore the 1923 musical Elsie, composed by dual composing teams Eubie Blake and Noble Sissle, and Monte Carlo and Alma Sanders. We are so lucky to have soon-to-be Dr. Lisa Williamson join our team to help present this show. A critically acclaimed soprano, music scholar, and educator, Lisa holds degrees from the Yale School of Music and the Peabody Conservatory of Johns Hopkins University, and is currently a candidate for Doctor of Musical Arts at UConn, focusing on the music of Black American composers in the early 20th century. If you haven't already, we recommend watching our previous video on George Gershwin's A Dangerous Maid. To review, after their successful interpolation in The Sweetheart Shop, George and Ira Gershwin were hired by producer Edgar MacGregor to supply the entire score to A Dangerous Maid. The musical was based on Charles W. Bell's 1918 play, The Dislocated Husband, and Bell was brought on board to supply the book to the musical. After traveling to Atlantic City, Wilmington, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Pittsburgh, receiving fairly positive reviews throughout, MacGregor decided to close down the show prematurely, supposedly because of money problems. The Gershwins' version of the show never made it to Broadway. However, MacGregor was not yet ready to give up, and 2 years later retitled the show Elsie, and brought in a new team of writers to replace Gershwin's music. Originally, the husband and wife composing team of Monte Carlo and Alma Sanders were hired, but eventually MacGregor made the bold choice to bring in Eubie Blake and Noble Sissle to help fill out the score. Sissle and Blake were coming off their recent success of Shuffle Along. Over the span of 14 weeks, Elsie made its journey to the Great White Way, stopping at 11 different cities. Finally, on April 2nd, 1923, Elsie opened at the Vanderbilt Theater on Broadway. Unfortunately, the show only ran for 40 performances, closing just over a month later on May 5th, and has fallen into near total oblivion since. This is the first time that almost all of this music has been recorded, and is, as far as we can tell, the first public performance of Elsie since its premiere 97 years ago. Since the creators of this show are not as well known as some of the other figures in our series, such as Jerome Kern, Rodgers and Hart, and Gershwin, we will be presenting brief biographies as intermission segments throughout the show. In our final segment, we will elaborate on the significance of Shuffle Along's place in Broadway history. Finally, before we start our journey through Elsie, we need your help. 100% of the donations from this video will go to Black Theatre United, a new organization founded this summer by Audra McDonald, Brian Stokes Mitchell, Kenny Leon, Vanessa Williams, Billy Porter, and countless others. Learn more about this incredible organization at blacktheatreunited.com. We here at Where the Good Songs Go stand in allyship with our colleagues of color and strive to make changes in our communities and within our own organization moving forward. You can donate through PayPal or Venmo using our handle Where the Good Songs Go. Be sure to include the subject Elsie in your donation. Thank you for joining us as we breathe life into this all but forgotten music. We hope you enjoy this virtual production of Elsie. Harry Hammond is the wealthy, good-natured, but spoiled son of the very well-to-do Eleanor and Philip Hammond, a prominent construction business tycoon. Harry is totally smitten with 18-year-old Elsie Crofton, a musical comedy chorus girl who is fully accomplished in all the wiles that captivate men, but adores Harry and is willing to abandon her career plans and tie the knot. The couple elope, but Harry's stuck-up parents, along with his sister Marjorie and her fiancé Fred, learn of the marriage only through newspaper reports. The entire family is furious, considering Elsie nothing more than a threat to their exalted social position. Harry's sharp-tongued mother is especially irate. Something must be done. Fred has a plan, and the family invites the newlyweds to their Idlewild, New York summer home. Per Fred's plan, Philip will conjure up an emergency building crisis that necessitates Harry's leaving town for several weeks. After initially extending Elsie parental blessings and a warm welcome, the family will do everything it can to make life so disagreeable for her that she will long for a return to the stage and leave Harry. On top of this, they will parade some attractive men in her path, hoping to entrap her in some kind of romance with another man, specifically Fred. Upon Harry's return and discovery of his wife's infidelity, as the plan goes, he will want to leave Elsie. Harry and Elsie arrive at the home separately, the latter accompanied by her chorus girlfriends, who waste no time in flirting with the butler, Parker. One difference already from A Dangerous Maid is that in Elsie, it takes a long time to get to the first musical number. In this slot, we found Boy Wanted in A Dangerous Maid, which marked the start of Act 2. Here we find Sissle and Blake's A Regular Guy. A quick survey of the songs of Elsie reveals that about half, including this opening number, are marked with a foxtrot rhythm designation. Fundamentally, the foxtrot was to Broadway musical comedy in the late teens, 20s, and 30s, what the waltz was to Viennese operetta beginning in about 1865. Whereas the waltz maintained its undisputed prime position in Vienna for at least half a century, the foxtrot was continually evolving, both absorbing related steps, like the shimmy and later the Charleston, and spawning new ones, like the grizzly bear, the bunny hug, and the turkey trot, to name a few. The foxtrot is in 4/4 time and has been described as a fast but simple trotting step to ragtime music. Both the origins of the dance and its name are shrouded in a fog of history. According to some, it first came to attention in 1914 and was popularized that year by the iconic dance team of Vernon and Irene Castle, who showcased it in Irving Berlin's first musical, Watch Your Step. And according to some, maybe not the same some, the dance took its name from the popular vaudeville comedian and actor, Harry Fox. Without further ado, here is the female company of Elsie performing A Regular Guy.
Some girls want to find a man who has sowed no wild oats at all. I mean, one of those mother will speak, whose first name is Archibald.
Others want the kind of man that they can park at home. I mean, hand awkward and homely.
Just so we know that he's a regular guy.
The girls' interest in Parker the butler has its limits, however, although they are confident that he will someday find love for himself. Now it was Carlo and Sanders' turn to write a number for the chorus women. Here is One Day in May.
Day by day along the way, the flowers fair in tiny beds will nod their heads most everywhere. To a strange triumphal song, they'll sing your wedding song. Violets will sing of gladness. They will chase the gloom away. May you never hear of sadness. That's what pansies have to say.
And the song the daisy singing tells you love story each day. All the red roses sing we love you. May your life be like a day in May.
Violets will sing of gladness. They will chase the gloom away. May you never hear of sadness. That's what pansies have to say. And the song the daisy singing tells you love story each day. All the red roses sing we love you. May your life be like a day in May.
Elsie and Harry, still ecstatic as recent bride and groom, confirm the special romantic bond that they share. This song serves a similar function as Elsie's ballad, Just to Know That You Are Mine, in A Dangerous Maid. While the waltz rhythm is kept, the ballad is turned into a duet written by Sissle and Blake. Here is Sadie Spivey and Spencer Reese as Elsie and Harry singing Two Hearts in tune.
Two hearts are just like violins that play. They must have the same tone pitch of A. There cannot be harmony if they're off key. You strike the violins to get their tone, but Cupid has a system all his own, and you will find mighty soon if your two hearts are in tune. When each tender kiss fills your soul with bliss, if without each other can exist if you thrill divine when your hands entwine. If Decembers are just like June, then your two hearts are beating in tune.
When each tender kiss fills your soul with bliss, if without each other neither can exist, if you thrill divine when your hands entwine,
If Decembers are just like June, then your two hearts are beating in tune.
Upon learning that Harry is being sent away to deal with a family business issue, Elsie is distraught, but nevertheless takes comfort in her small-town traditional upbringing that will help her endure the separation. Here is where Elsie gets her first solo turn, singing the title song written by Carlo and Sanders.
in a little simple town where bright lights never play, in a little stone house on a side street far away, that's where not many years ago my little cradle stood, and I grew up like little children should. They called me Elsie and sent me to school. I had to learn every old-fashioned rule, but the life in small towns, you see, never taught the stage tricks to me. Your heart and my heart are beating the same. That is a law in life's game. Even though my heart is grieving, I'm just playing make-believing. I'm still just Elsie, that's all. They called me Elsie and sent me to school. I had to learn every old-fashioned rule, but the life in small towns, you see, never taught the stage tricks to me. Your heart and my heart are beating the same. That is a law in life's game. Even though my heart is grieving, I'm just playing make-believing. I'm still just Elsie, that's all.
In taking a last look at his new wife and her girlfriends before leaving on assignment, Harry can't resist commenting on the latest fashions that they parade. He misses the old-fashioned styles of the mid-19th century, where girls would wear structured crinoline petticoats. He sings the following song, My Crinoline Girl, written by Sissle and Blake. Surprisingly, Mendelssohn's Wedding March is again referenced in the lyric. Apparently no one realized that the same idea was quoted by two different composing teams in the same show. Despite that, here is Spencer Reese singing My Crinoline Girl.
like the knobby dresses and the bobby dresses that the modern girlies wear. But I am admitting that their style of fitting nowadays is a little bare. But the style that I love best of all was worn in days now past recall. Our grandmothers wore them, our granddads adored them, each sang to his lady fair. My Crinoline Girl, my Crinoline Girl, you look so sweet and so pure. You're so petite and demure, my Crinoline Girl, my Crinoline Pearl. Wedding bells soon will chime, that old Mendelssohn rhyme. Beautiful Crinoline, I love you. Beautiful Crinoline Girl, my Crinoline Girl, my Crinoline Girl. You look so sweet and so pure. You're so petite and demure, my Crinoline Girl, my Crinoline Pearl. Wedding bells soon will chime, that old Mendelssohn rhyme. Beautiful Crinoline, I love you. Beautiful Crinoline Girl.
Now it's time to explore two of the men behind the creation of this production, Noble Sissle and Eubie Blake. James Hubert Blake, or as he was more commonly known, Eubie Blake, was born in Baltimore on February 7th, 1883, and having lived until his 100th birthday, passed away on February 12th, 1983. Blake is known for his iconic quote, "If I had known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself." Born the son of formerly enslaved people Emily Johnstone and John Summer Blake, Eubie was one of 8 children, but was the only one to survive past infancy. At the age of 6, Blake's parents bought him a home organ and planned lessons for him. Eubie would later study with William Llewellyn Wilson, the first conductor of the African American Symphony in Baltimore. In 1915, he met the singer Noble Sissle. Sissle was born in 1889 in Indianapolis. Sissle worked as a singer and dancer while attending college at DePauw University and later Butler University. Upon meeting Eubie, Noble dropped out of college and they formed a partnership, achieving near instant success with It's All Your Fault, which was recorded by Sophie Tucker. Sissle alternated between working with Blake and with James Reese Europe's 369th U.S. Infantry Band. The 369th Infantry was known more commonly as the Harlem Hellfighters and consisted of only Black Americans. You might recognize Europe's name from our Nobody Home production, as Europe composed the refrain to At the San Francisco Fair, along with Ford Dabney. Before he was deployed with the 369th, Europe led annual concerts at Carnegie Hall with his Clef Club Orchestra from 1912 to 1915. The concerts consisted of works by Black composers and performers and were incredibly popular with both Black and white audiences. Throughout World War I, Noble traveled with the band overseas. By the end of the war, the Hellfighters Band was one of the most popular military bands in all of Europe, as they introduced jazz music to their European audiences. After the war, and when James Reese Europe was murdered in May of 1919 by a disgruntled drummer from the band, Sissle and Blake formed the Dixie Trio, a vaudeville act. In 1921, they would create their smash hit Shuffle Along, which we will talk about in more detail later in the video. As you know, their next musical after Shuffle Along was Elsie in 1923. The following year, the two wrote In Bamville, which was renamed The Chocolate Dandies. But apart from new editions of Shuffle Along in 1932 and 1952, that was the extent of Sissle and Blake's book musical output on Broadway. Blake would write several more reviews with lyricist Andy Rizoff, like Lou Leslie's Blackbirds in 1930 and Tan Manhattan in 1940, among others. While noted for his work as a lyricist, Sissle's major contribution, in particular to the art of jazz, was as a bandleader and singer. Sissle's recordings of Kansas City Kitty and On the Lazy Amazon, along with Camp Meeting Day and Miranda, are regarded as, quote, perhaps the most important recordings ever made by an African-American show band, end quote. That's Oxford Music Online. Sissle died in 1975. During World War II, Blake served as bandleader for the USO, where he met his second wife, Marion Grant Tyler. In 1946, Blake retired from performing and enrolled in NYU, where he studied the Schillinger system of composition. Using this system, he transcribed many songs that he had memorized but never written down. In 1978, Eubie, a revue featuring Blake's music with lyrics by Sissle, Andy Rizoff, Johnny Brandon, F.E. Miller, and Jim Europe, opened on Broadway. It was a hit and ran for 439 performances and won 3 Tony Awards, including one for Blake's score. Blake was a legendary figure in America and was a featured guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and Merv Griffin, and was even a musical guest with Gregory Hines on SNL in 1979. In 1981, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Ronald Reagan, the nation's highest civilian honor.
With Harry gone, the family is poised to carry out its scheme, but little do they anticipate the magnitude of Elsie's allure. One by one, beginning with Fred, the men of the house succumb to her charms. This next duet is reminiscent of Gershwin's The Simple Life. Elsie loves living in the country and has little plans to return to her life back on the stage. With words and music by Sissle and Blake, here is Sadie Spivey and Mark Hosseini as Elsie and Fred singing I Like to Walk with a Pal Like You.
In the city, except when shopping, why I never walk a square. It's a pity, for I'm always hopping in a taxi cab to catch some air. Why just the least exercise makes me feel like I'm all in. To see one walking, I'd surmise they were trying to get thin. But here in the country, oh, what a change has come over me. Some strange feeling o'er me stealing has raised my pep to the nth degree. I could walk through acres of clover, climb over hedges and stiles. When I come to a brook, jump over, never stop to think of the miles, picking lots of berries and flowers, chase pretty butterflies too. And you can bet that if I found a honeybee comb, take all the honey for the honeybee's home. Oh, I could walk all the countryside over when I am walking with a pal like
I can walk through acres of clover, climb all the hedges and stiles. When I come to a brook, jump over. Never stop to think of the miles, picking lots of berries and flowers. Chase pretty butterflies too, and you can bet that if I found a honeybee comb, take all the honey for the honeybee's home. Oh, I could walk all the countryside over when I am walking with a pal like you.
Let's not forget that Fred is engaged to Harry's sister, Marjorie. No sooner has she stepped out for a few moments than Fred wastes no time in cuddling up to Elsie's girlfriends, thinking of them as simply temporary substitutes for the girl he really loves. With only 2 exceptions, all of the 18 songs from Elsie that are in this presentation have lyrics either by Noble Sissle or Carlo and Sanders. But this next song, Two Lips Are Roses, and Honeymoon Home, which we will soon encounter, have lyrics by Alfred Bryan. For those of you playing along at home, this name might ring a bell, as Rodgers and Hart were brought in as replacements for the originally hired team on Poor Little Ritz Girl of George Meyer and Alfred Bryan. Bryan spent almost a quarter of a century, from 1903 to 1927, writing lyrics and occasional music for 20 Broadway shows. Most of his output, however, was for Tin Pan Alley and was not associated with any stage work. He is most remembered, if he is remembered at all, for supplying the lyrics to several classic hit parade tunes from that era, including Come Josephine in My Flying Machine, Peg o' My Heart, Who Paid the Rent for Mrs. Rip Van Winkle When Rip Van Winkle Went Away, and the 1915 I Didn't Raise My Boy to Be a Soldier, which sold 650,000 copies in 3 months and survived the rebuke by a song that was published later that year, I'd Be Proud to Be the Mother of a Soldier, with music and lyrics by Charles A. Beha. Here is Mark and his Muses performing Two Lips Are Roses, with music by Carlo and Sanders and lyrics by Alfred Bryan.
In my garden blooms a rose I love to kiss each day. Can't a daisy take her place when Rose has gone away? You'll never miss one little kiss. Say, can't you spare a few? If I should give you all a kiss, to Rose I'd still be true. Two lips are roses, two lips are roses when they belong to you. Your 2 lips can make the sand just look like a flowery land. In love's oasis, your fond embraces make all the sky seem blue. 2 lips to me, like roses will always be. 2 lips are roses, 2 lips are roses when they belong to you. Your 2 lips can make the sand just look like a flowery land. In love's oasis, your fond embraces make all the sky seem blue. 2 lips to me, like roses will always be.
When Marjorie returns, Fred has to slam on the brakes with the girls and quickly turns his attention to her, which, as the slick operator that he is, he does quite seamlessly. They reminisce about a story Marjorie's father used to tell her. With words and music by Sissle and Blake, here is Mark Hosseini as Fred Blakely and Lauren Nash Silberstein as Marjorie Hammond singing Baby Bunting.
Now, darling little girlie, when you were just age 3, your daddy used to call you and take you on his knee. He'd sing this song from Mother Goose, and you'll remember too, 'bout bye-bye baby Buntin, daddy's gone hunting for you. But now your man is old and gray, and you're a grown-up girl, and I would be the happiest fellow in all this world if you'll be my little baby Buntin. Then I'll be your man and go a-huntin'. I'll find the trail of love and tramp it day by day. Over the hills and dales of life I'll gladly wend my way. I'll never tire of my journey, while the treasures of this world I hunt for you. But instead of a little rabbit skin, the fur of a mink I'll wrap you in, if you'll be my little baby Buntin.
I'll be her little baby Buntin, then you'll be my dad and go hunting. We'll find the trail of love and tramp it day by day. Over the hills and dales of life we'll gladly wend our way. We'll never tire of our journey, while the treasures of this world you'll hunt for me. But instead of aboard a railroad train, we'll travel around in an aeroplane.
If you'll be my little baby Buntin.
At some point during the next few weeks, Fred, fully mesmerized by Elsie, breaks ranks and reveals the family's plot to her. She decides to have some fun and get her revenge on the family by intensifying her flirting with all the males. Harry eventually returns and loses no time in conjuring up for Elsie the most idyllic of honeymoon retreats. This is the other Carlo and Sanders song that featured lyrics by Alfred Bryan. Here is Spencer and Sadie once again singing Honeymoon Home.
I'm building a home on Honeydew Farm, a cuddle-up home where life is a charm, a honey suite of rooms all filled with rose perfumes, where we can nestle arm in arm. The bees will bring each day their honey to you. The scent of new mown hay keeps coming to you. Each pretty garden rose will wait till you repose, then climb up to your window to take a peep. The birds will wake you up each morning at dawn, and I will take you up when slumber has gone. We'll build a toy house, a girl and boy house, and call our new joy house, our honeymoon home, our honeymoon home.
The blossoms that grow in Honeydew Lane are whiter than snow and tender as rain. A pretty bluebird sings outside our cottage door to bring us love forevermore. The bees will bring each day their honey to you. The scent of new Monte keeps coming to you. Each pretty garden rose will wait till you repose, then climb up to your window to take a peep. The birds will wake you up each morning at dawn. Then I will take you up when slumber has gone. We'll build a toy house, a girl and boy house, and call our new joy house our honeymoon home, our honeymoon home.
After their duet finishes, Elsie is joined by her friends, and she gives them a lesson or two on how to exploit the seashore to attract the promenading gentleman. With its aquatic theme, this song has a loose connection to Gershwin's The Sirens. Here is Sissle and Blake's version, Sandflowers, featuring Elsie and her friends.
We wear bathing suits but never swim. Always on the beach but don't go in. All we do is pose, so now I suppose that's why they call us Sandflowers, 'cause we spend the livelong day in cozy sandbars. Near the surf we never stray, but far away from the rollers we stay where the strollers can watch us as they're promenading by. And like a garden of roses, a form each discloses to catch some fellow's eye. For every sandflower with her cunning little charm waits for that grand hour she can lean upon an arm. And when the wedding knot is tied, we will settle down by the ocean side in a bungalow, there to grow some little sandflowers. They call us sandflowers, 'cause we spend the livelong day in cozy sandbars. Near the surf we never stray, but far away from the rollers we stay with the strollers can watch us as they're promenading by. And like a garden of roses, a form each discloses to catch some fellow's eye. For every sandflower with her cunning little charm waits for that grand hour she can lean upon an arm. And when the wedding knot is tied, we will settle down by the ocean side in a bungalow, there to grow some little flowers.
Now it's time to explore the other creative team behind Elsie, Carlo and Sanders. To put things in perspective, there are about 100 books in over a dozen languages written about Gershwin. There are about 4 or 5 written about Sissle and or Blake, and there are exactly none written about Carlo and Sanders. So, who are they? First, let's track down their first names. Carlo is in fact, believe it or not, Monte Carlo. Monte, if we should so call him, was actually born in Denmark, and his real name is Hans von Holstein, which still doesn't sound very Danish. In order to avoid studying medicine in his homeland, he emigrated to America, where he became Hans Carlo. He was eventually convinced to go further afield and adopt the name Monte Carlo. Down the line, he took a job at the Remick Music Corporation. As you will remember, George Gershwin worked at Remick as a song plugger. Monte Carlo, while working at Remick, met a young woman, a co-worker, named Alma Sanders. Alma Sanders was born in Chicago, where her musical talents came under the watchful eye of showman extraordinaire Florence Ziegfeld's father, a well-known teacher in the city. She eventually moved to Detroit, where she began working at a publishing company and writing songs for use in dance exercises, including The Dance of the Teeny Weenies, which, if you believe the press of the time, was used in every dance school in the country. When she met Carlo, Alma was already married to a man named Ernst Benjamin, who in March of 1921 filed for divorce, claiming that music broke up his marriage, as his wife would often not return until 3 a.m. in the morning. Make of it what you will, but Carlo and Sanders were later married. The event and its date seem to have eluded the press. As a composing team, Carlo and Sanders wrote the music and lyrics for 10 Broadway shows from 1918 to 1947. They struck gold once. In 1921, their musical satire of the sexes, Tangerine, ran for 361 performances and became the second longest-running book musical of the 1921-22 Broadway season, behind Sigmund Romberg's Blossom Time. Although totally forgotten today, Tangerine had enough shelf life to be featured in a mid-1940s radio broadcast in Melbourne, Australia. Their next show was Elsie. Riding high from their recent success of Tangerine, they were understandably miffed when producer Edgar MacGregor brought in Sissle and Blake to take over half the score. After a 14-week tryout that toured 11 cities, Elsie closed on Broadway after only 40 performances, and until this video had fallen into near total oblivion. Carlo and Sanders followed Elsie with such forgettable titles as The Chiffon Girl, Princess April, Oh, Oh Nurse, and Houseboat on the Styx. In 1930, they reached rock bottom when their musical, Mystery Moon, had the dubious distinction of opening and closing on Broadway in the same 3-hour period. They didn't return to Broadway until 17 years later, with their musical comedy Louisiana Lady, whose performance count quadrupled that of their previous show, that is, 4 performances. That was that for Carlo and Sanders on Broadway. But let's enjoy their contribution to Elsie, for as reported by Variety, the 3 acts are crammed with hot and snappy numbers. Much more so than in A Dangerous Maid, the third act of Elsie gives way almost entirely to a series of show numbers featuring the family members and Elsie's girlfriends. First, Elsie tells her friends a tale about a lovesick glowworm. This is ironic as the girls were all members of the Glowworm Company. With music and lyrics by Carlo and Sanders, here is Little Glowworm.
When the world has gone to sleep, silence silver light. Little glow and glimmer, shimmer, glimmer on, till you find your night.
No show worth its salt in the 1920s could go for 2.5 hours without some mention of the latest dance craze. The Charleston was still a few months away, but Fred and Marjorie make it clear that you're nobody until you forget the foxtrot and take up the strut. Here is Fred, Marjorie, and the company of Elsie performing Sissle and Blake's Everybody's Strutting Now.
Goodbye, foxtrot, and one-steppers too. Old Honolulu, your wiggles are through. There's a new dance craze that has set them wild. It's being done by every chick and child. So you had better learn it if you want to be in style. For everybody's strutting now. Everybody's learning how to do a syncopated jazz time walk. You'd better imitate it, it's the whole town talk. When you learn to do your stuff, you can never get enough. If they ask you to shimmy, you'll start a row. For everybody's strutting like Bon Bon Buddy, the sweetest around. Everybody's strutting now. Everybody's strutting now. Everybody's learning how to do a syncopated jazz time walk. You better imitate it, it's the whole town talk. When you learn to do your stuff, you can never get enough. If they ask you to shimmy, you'll start a row. For everybody's strutting like Bon Bon Buddy, the sweetest around. Everybody's strutting now.
But we're not done yet. The girls join in with Fred and Marjorie and entice us to react to every noise we hear, not with a shriek, but with a body movement that all put together creates a jazzing thunder-storming dance, also written by Sissle and Blake.
Believe me, this is what I call a syncopated storm. Everything is banging out in rhyme.
First you hear the slamming of the door out on the lawn, then comes a peal of thunder right in time.
But what's the use of being frightened? Let's give up for the razz. So come on, line up for a dance of thunderstorming jazz. When you hear the wind begin to blow, skip. When the trees begin to bend and low, dip. When the windows start to rattle, just like raining shots in battle, do the step they call skedaddle with a flip, chip. Every time you see the lightning flash, jump. Every time you hear the thunder crash, bump. When the hinges start to squeaking, and gables start a-creaking, and the roof begins to leaking, then's your chance to let your knees begin to quiver. Do a shimmy, shake, and shiver as you do the jazzy thunderstorming dance. When you hear the wind begin to blow, skip. When the trees begin to bend and low, dip. When the windows start to rattle, just like raining shots in battle, do the step they call skedaddle with a flip, chip. Every time you see the lightning flash, jump. Every time you hear the thunder crash, bump, when the hinges start to squeaking, and gables start a-creaking, and the roof begins to leaking, then's your chance to let your knees begin to quiver, do a shimmy, shake, and shiver, as you do the jazzy thunderstorming dance.
Now let's get back to the plot line. Word has reached Harry that in his absence, Elsie has carried on a little too coquettishly with Fred and her father-in-law. Before Elsie and the family can straighten him out, he suggests that maybe it is best if he and Elsie part. Disenchanted with his lack of trust in her, she laments the darkness that now seems to engulf her. This song resembles Elsie's final ballad in A Dangerous Maid, Some Rain Must Fall. Keeping the meteorological thread, here we have Elsie performing Carlo and Sanders' Clouds of Love.
Love has its way, love has its day. I thought the bluebird had found me. Now all my dreams have faded, it seems. Dark is the world all around me. Clouds up above are just small clouds of love, clouds that are soon drifting by. When they are gone with the break of the dawn, you'll find the sun in the sky. I'm all alone and a long way from home. No one to drive tears away. If the ache in my heart with those clouds could depart, then the whole world would be paradise. Clouds up above are just small clouds of love, clouds that are soon drifting by. When they are gone with the break of the dawn, you'll find the sun in the sky. I'm all alone and a long way from home. No one to drive tears away. If the ache in my heart with those clouds could depart, then the whole world would be paradise.
Sissle and Blake's Shuffle Along marked the beginning of a new age of Broadway, with Black shows front and center. Shows written, produced, and starring Black artists were a common occurrence in the 1920s. From 1921 to 1924, no fewer than 9 shows starring Black singers or written by Black composers had successful runs on Broadway. Before that, the last show by a Black American composer was vaudeville star Burt Williams's Mr. Load of Coal in 1909. In the meantime, Black shows played the touring circuit for solely Black houses, but none had graced a Broadway stage. That all changed on May 23, 1921, when Shuffle Along opened at the 63rd Street Theater. The music and lyrics were written by the newly formed duo of Sissle and Blake, who joined forces with Flournoy Miller and Aubrey Lyles, who wrote the book. The show was a smash hit. Esteemed Harlem Renaissance writer James Weldon Johnson, himself a former member of a Black Broadway writing team at the turn of the century, known as Cole and Johnson Brothers, wrote about the success of Shuffle Along in his biography of New York City called Black Manhattan. He wrote that the show came to New York City on a shoestring after successful previews in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. But within a few weeks, Shuffle Along made the 63rd Street Theater one of the best-known houses in town and made it necessary for the traffic department to declare 63rd Street a one-way thoroughfare. The show launched the careers of almost every member of the cast, but most notably Josephine Baker, one of the dancers in the chorus line, who wooed audiences and critics alike by mugging and purposefully getting out of step. Sissle and Blake gave her a lead in their next Black show, The Chocolate Dandies, in 1924, which propelled her to international superstardom. Another unknown member of the chorus at the time was Paul Robeson, who replaced an ailing singer at the last minute. Eubie Blake said, quote, "Why, I'm the direct cause of him being on stage. We lost the bass singer of the Four Harmony Kings, and we needed someone fast. He was then a start player on the Rutgers football team," end quote. Prominent Black composers of the mid-century, William Grant Still and Hall Johnson, both played in the original orchestra. What made the show remarkable and successful was its appeal to both white and Black audiences. A poll by Variety magazine during the show's 504 performance run over 2 years found that the audience was almost 90% white. But even more remarkable than that was that the house was not segregated. Going against standard practice at the time, Black audiences were permitted to sit in the orchestra section, though still limited to only 1/3 of the seats, with careful placement by the box office. But it did inspire a loosening of seating restrictions throughout Broadway houses, so much that by 1930, seeing Black audiences in the orchestra section was no longer cause for alarm. Though it was not the first attempt at legitimate Black theater, it was, up until that point, the most successful. Another reason for the show's wild success was its numerous catchy songs. I'm Just Wild About Harry, later used as a campaign song for Harry Truman's presidential run in 1948, Shuffle Along, Love Will Find a Way, In Honeysuckle Time, and Gypsy Blues were just a few of the hit songs to come from the show. The original production toured the United States for an additional 2 years until 1924. Since then, the show has been revived multiple times. First in 1932, again in 1952, and recently with an updated and revised book in 2016, starring Audra McDonald, Brian Stokes Mitchell, and Billy Porter, among others. The run was nominated for 10 Tony Awards, but won none, and closed after only 3 months.
Before we end our exploration of Elsie, we have 3 more bonus tracks that we'd like to share with you. The first is an alternate opening number titled I'll Find the Key to Your Heart, written by Carlo and Sanders and performed by Fred and Marjorie. It was cut before the show opened on Broadway, but resembles Anything for You from Gershwin's A Dangerous Maid. Here is Lauren and Mark singing I'll Find the Key to Your Heart.
There's a key that I'm looking for, a little key that opens up a quaint little secret door.
There've been many like you before, who've looked and never found the key you are looking for.
Some fine day, when no one's around, I'll find the key. Open up the door to your heart so I can see if I'm the one who lives there when you are dreaming, while I'm spending all of my life just scheming. You're the girl who's more than the great wide world to me. You're the girl I'm asking again to marry me. I hope and long and pray you'd speed our wedding day. I'd lock the door and throw the key away.
Our next bonus track, Sissle and Blake's With You, was a duet for Harry and Elsie, intended to follow the title song in Act 1. It was also cut pre-Broadway. In the score, it is designated as a foxtrot ballad. While Harry is about to leave for his construction project, he reassures Elsie that while he might not physically be there, he will always be with her in spirit. One last time, here is Sadie and Spencer singing With You.
There are many things I know perplexing you. Trials that you undergo are vexing too. But my dear, just keep this thought in mind, and it may give consolation. If your doubts give rise to fear, remember, dear, with you ordeals unknown. Through mountain trails I'd roam. Why, even in a little fragile birch canoe, with you I'd attempt to cross the boundless ocean blue, without a caravan. With you I'd risk the perils of Sahara's sand, and from Greenland's icy snow down where torrid sunbeams glow, there's no place I would not go, my dear, with you. With you ordeals unknown. Through mountain trails I'd roam. Why, even in a little fragile birch canoe, with you I'd attempt to cross the boundless ocean blue, without a caravan. With you I'd risk the perils of Sahara's sand, and from Greenland's icy snow down where torrid sunbeams glow, there's no place I would not go, my dear, with you.
Our journey ends with Sissle and Blake's Jingle Step, another dance craze song that was probably cut pre-Broadway to make room for everybody's strutting now and or jazzing thunder storming dance. Here it is restored once more, like all of the music that you've heard in this presentation. Music is meant to be heard, and it has been our great joy putting together these virtual productions. With enough interest, we hope to present more in the future. If you've enjoyed these virtual productions, please help us raise money by donating through Venmo or PayPal. And keep in touch with our Facebook feed, as we will be releasing new information on our exciting holiday gift promotion in the coming days, where you can give the gift of a personalized performance of an early musical theater gem to your loved ones this holiday season. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as we approach the holiday season, remember to do the Jingle Step.
Get set, for I know this dance will knock you right off your seat. Oh honey, I bet that you never saw a dance that this one can't beat, because it is so trippy, you'll go dippy. It will make you weep, you will never sleep when you do the jingle step. You tingle with a jingle sensation, for the little jingle step is wonderful creation.